Well, hello again, YouTube. It's Petey Two Finger, and today we're going to talk about everybody's favorite subject, drugs, drugs. Now, whether your life has been touched or you're one of the lucky ones, this type of information, to me, seems of utmost importance that we, as a society as a whole, educate ourselves and understand what's going on in the street, rather than just stand back at a distance and point a finger and say, "Those people are bad. I'm good." You know, I'm here with my glass of single malt Scotch, my addictions. These people, they're homeless because they smoke crack. So, with that being said, I'm going to go through a list of street drugs. This is not really, most of them are a little bit more off of the radar. So unless you're really into, like, you may not have heard of many of these drugs. If you know what all of these, like, I took a drug test once. I got 100%. I knew them all. But stay tuned. I think you'll enjoy this content. I'm going to be reading. So give me a second here to pop open my folder. I prepared some information here, which apparently has disappeared. Okay, here we go. And we do have some photographs. Just some quick facts to get us rolling. Cannabis was the most popular illicit drug of 2020, with a 46% increase in use among Americans. MDMA, ecstasy, ranked last among the 11 drugs on the survey, dropping by a 41% in the absence of any festivals or nightclubs due to the lockdown effect. Without a club scene, cocaine fell by 38%. Ketamine by 34%. Psychedelics like magic mushrooms and LSD remained steady. About 20% of people said they have increased their use of psychedelic compounds. And if you talk to any good hippie, they will tell you the only good drugs are the psychedelics. Fentanyl, also called Apache, China Girl, Dance Fever, Poison, Blue Dolphin, Fireberea, fentanyl mixed with heroin, Facebook, fentanyl and heroin in a pill form, Speedball, fentanyl mixed with cocaine, or Goofball, fentanyl mixed with methamphetamine. Although the opioid crisis is not, unfortunately, a new one, the emergence of fentanyl has made it more dangerous. A powerful synthetic opioid up to 100 times more potent than morphine, fentanyl caused more than 30,000 deaths in 2018. Given the low cost of production and low detection rate, officials expect these numbers to worsen as time passes. Dealers are also cutting the powder into an increasing number of street drugs. Fentanyl now routinely appears in cocaine, methamphetamine, MDMA or ecstasy, and benzodiazepines like Xanax and Itizolam. Lacing fentanyl into these other drugs make them cheaper to produce, but puts users at far greater risk of overdose and addiction. Fentanyl is the big one. This is the one that we keep hearing about in the news and the one that they keep pinning all of the overdose deaths on. Although if we pay attention and watch the rest of this video, you're going to learn that all may not be what it seems. Interesting fact number one. Since the end of the war in Afghanistan, there's no more heroin on the streets. You cannot get heroin in the United States of America. You can't get it. Everything that's being sold under the guise of dope, horse smack heroin is a synthetic opiate of one kind or another, and that's what we are going to be dissecting through that information of what's been going around today. Of course, the big one being fentanyl, and the horrifying fact that this drug is being widely distributed, just mixed in as a bonus ingredient in all these other drugs. If you're a regular cocaine user, hey, guess what? You've got a serious opioid addiction now too. Did you notice that they were cutting it with fentanyl, or did you just think that was an extra good batch? The come down wasn't as harsh? I don't know. I always seem to remember hearing about speedballs being, you would take your cocaine, and then when that party's over, the opiate kicks in. That being the way to go. Like a real rudimentary idea of this would be to smoke your crack cocaine, and when you've run that dry, then you toot or insufflate your Karachi or your brown heroin. And so when you come down, the come down from crack normally makes you feel really bad. You get a horrific headache, and it's an awful experience. The heroin nullifies that effect. Now, the problem with this is our bodies don't like when we do that, and your heart stops. You could suffer what's known as arterial defibrillation, and that means your heart stops beating. I know a guy who was very close friends with my pal William G. King, who passed at the age of 31 from arterial defibrillosis. He was injecting himself with cocaine. Now, my personal fentanyl story is, you may or may not know, I am a chronic pain patient. I have suffered a degenerative disease, and I have 2 herniated discs in my lower back. So I live with chronic pain, and I visit a pain clinic. Actually, this was the nation's #1 rated pain clinic. It's called RIC. It's on, the address is 1 Miracle Mile, Michigan Avenue, Chicago, Illinois. And they prescribed me fentanyl. I was on fentanyl for a month and a half, 2 months, and I asked to be taken off of the fentanyl. When I had researched it, and after I had been on it for a short period of time, I was on a transdermal patch, and I had issues with the patch sweating, and then coming off and also breaking out in a irritating rash in the area where the patch was. But enough about my personal story. I just like to tell people, when I talk about my own history, I was on fentanyl. I've been on the same dose since then, which, gee, it's been a long time. Long time. But that's my cross to bear, and we're going to move on. Actually, I want to show you guys this image real quick. Here is a fatal dose of fentanyl. What do I got to do here? Fatal dose of fentanyl. There it is. Not a lot. I would think that would be more. Moving on. Number 2 is isotonitazine. Now, this is known as iso. It is a derivative of benzimidazole. Isotonitazine is a derivative of benzimidazole. It is an opioid analgesic that is not medically authorized. So this is a synthetic opiate that's 500 times more potent than morphine. Here it's listed that it's a slightly greater potency than fentanyl. I've read that it's up to 20 to 100 times more potent than fentanyl. It effects are like morphine and fentanyl, causing relaxation, euphoria, and respiratory depression. The main thing that you need to realize about isotonitazine, or ISO, is that it is an adulterant used in the preparation of street H, or heroin, that's responsible for much of the overdose deaths that we're hearing about. A good portion, when they talk about fentanyl overdose, well, it's isotonitazine. That's what they've been using. And it's more powerful than fentanyl, which fentanyl is ridiculous. We just saw that image of the couple of specks next to the penny that will kill you. This is more powerful. Absolutely ridiculous. Why we would need something like that. So we're going to take a look at a banner image prepared by a federal drug agency, metonitazine / atonitazine, commonly known as ISO, is a deadly drug 20 times more potent than fentanyl. ISO can be absorbed by the skin contact, inhalation, or ingestion. ISO is now turning up in overdose and substance abuse cases. The signs of an ISO overdose are blue and purple fingernails, blue and purple lips, difficulty breathing, unconsciousness, clammy skin, vomiting, pinpoint pupils, and drowsiness, all of which can occur within moments of exposure. And that's the terrifying fact behind both ISO and fentanyl. Carfentanil is an even more popular type of fentanyl. These things, you can be exposed to them and overdose, meaning if you get it on you or if you breathe in some dust, it's not good. And this, keep in mind, these substances are being manufactured in China and just shipped into the United States. It's one reason and one reason only, and that's to make money. And these people, it's just an evil thing. I don't know how you could do that and sleep. That's how you make your money? And it seems like this stuff is here to stay, meaning the federal government will go ahead and make this stuff illegal. They'll figure out what's being sold and make it illegal, and then it's only a matter of time before the next new drug hits the market. And that's exactly our next drug is morphine, which showed up in 2020, and it's found in counterfeit opioid pills and tablets, and as well as what we would think would be street heroin. So you go to buy, hey, give me my heroin, and in reality you're getting morphine. So the occurrence of morphine is yet another example of how the illicit drug market is continuously evolving in an attempt to escape international legislation. So as soon as these governments find out what's going around the street drugs and they make it illegal for you to import this stuff, they will alter the molecular structure of these drugs slightly and release a new research chemical which is free to distribute until we catch up on the other end. So it's this never-ending game of cops and robbers, and it's preying off the people in society who have the worst lives, because addicts do not create homelessness. Life creates homelessness. Homelessness creates addicts. That's really the way that works. So morphine has been replacing ISO as the active ingredient in what used to be known as heroin, sold in our black markets. Really interesting stuff. Phenibut, also called Envafen, Phenibut, P-But, Nufen party powder, originally developed by the Soviet Union for cosmonauts headed into space. Phenibut is an addictive anti-anxiety drug and nootropic, still prescribed in some Eastern European countries. As an unscheduled substance in the United States, phenibut is technically legal to use, but doctors may not prescribe it. Examples of similar drugs that bind to GABA receptors are alcohol and benzodiazepines, which have been extensively studied, are well known to produce tolerance, dependence, and classic withdrawal symptoms. So this is it's like a supplement, phenibut. It'll help you study, it will focus you, and you end up addicted to this stuff rather quickly, suffering psychosis, agitation, palpitations, which is not fun, visual and auditory hallucinations, nausea, and vomiting. So phenibut is a supplement that has gained some traction and notoriety in the younger legal highs category of drug user, and it is something that a lot of people have learned quickly. Grasp or the throes of agonizing addiction, no one rides for free. Xylazine, that sounds like something I want to put into my system. It's a non-opioid sedative used primarily by veterinarians. Puerto Rico has seen an emergence of xylazine users on the island since the early 2000s. It has been used in the States more recently as another adulterant in the fake H or heroin on the black market, which is typically they use synthetic opiates. As I mentioned before, since our war in Afghanistan ended, there is no more heroin in the United States. It is all synthetic opiates, fentanyl, carfentanil, isobromine, and probably missing some. Getting back to xylazine, the drug use among humans in Puerto Rico found that the dark brown substance was commonly mixed into speedballs, which is the upper and the downer mixture in a single syringe. Cocaine mixed with heroin or morphine and was mostly injected. Report says the drug causes abnormally slow blood pressure and heart rate in humans. So when you mix xylazine into a synthetic opiate and sell it as heroin, and if you're going to be honest, you call it trank dope, as in tranquilizer dope, known as the Kensington effect. Kensington is an area in Philly. Philly is good, dog. Get your cheesesteak, put your sports jersey on. We're going to go down and get some synthetic opioids. And there is video of Kensington Street, as well as other really bad drug or open-air drug markets. You can find these types of videos on various people's channels. And there's one thing in common that just you'll notice, depending on the type of drug market. If it's an opioid drug area, you will see people who are frozen, people who are bent over, appear to be sleeping, motionless, standing there. They might even be hunched over where they're standing erect, but their body is curved and their fingernails are almost touching the sidewalk. And they will be just motionless, frozen. That's not the opioids. That's xylazine. Xylazine is what does that to people. It is a tranquilizer sedative. It is a analgesic painkiller, a very good one, and a muscle relaxer. This sounds like a great way to spend a Sunday afternoon until your central nervous system, respiratory tract shuts down and you find yourself making plans for your wake and funeral. Xylazine. You won't find street names for this. You do see some street names. Cardi B, 500. There's some NBA guy, forget his name. But typically, this stuff, they don't brag about it. They get a hold of some xylene and they use it as a cutting agent to really knock their clients' socks off. And again, it's an additive. Now, we're getting to the end of the list. This one is older. I'm sure you've heard of it, but I couldn't make this video without talking about Flakka. Alpha PVP. It's a dangerous drug found in crystal forms with a street name of gravel, and it should be avoided at all costs. The drug could be eaten, snorted, injected, or vaporized in e-cigarettes. A synthetic designer drug, it's a stimulant that mimics the effect of the khat plant. And forgive me for not going down that rabbit hole. That khat is used in another culture. I don't know if it's South American or Asian. I think it's Asian. But this Flakka produces an amphetamine-like experience similar to ecstasy. I've heard people refer to it to, it's like meth or cocaine, but it does make you feel really good at first. Now, the side effects can be far more dangerous, and users on Flakka have displayed violent aggression, self-harm, and outright bizarre behavior. In one example, a user impaled himself on a fence. In another, a man ran through the streets naked, claiming someone had stolen his clothes. Users report hallucinations, psychosis, and delusions, drawing parallels to Flakka's chemical cousin, bath salts. There's videos out there with people on Flakka that will put the fear of God into you. They look like they're possessed by demons. Users may experience physical harm, including increased body temperature, kidney failure, and tachycardia, which I'm not sure what that is, but it sounds like something to do with your throat and choking to death. The combined effects have led the DEA to classify Flakka as a Schedule I narcotic. Paranoia, hallucinations lead to violent aggression and self-imagery. Fits of demon-like possession have been filmed and uploaded to social media. And this stuff evolved from legal weed. Overdose and death have been likened to the use of this drug. Notably, many teens unwittingly ingest Flakka while intending to take MDMA or cocaine, ecstasy or coke. Hey dog, I've got your, did you want coke? No, you wanted ecstasy? Oh, I've got that too. Because it's all Flakka. On its own, Flakka comes in pink or white crystal, similar to bath salts. Like other synthetic drugs, it may come in pouches labeled plant food or phone screen cleaner. When combined with other drugs, Flakka can be impossible to spot. The bottom line, the potential side effects of Flakka make it one of the most dangerous drugs on the street. If you struggle with substance abuse or have a loved one who may be susceptible to using club drugs like cocaine or Molly, recommend that they educate themselves. Check out my video or any other video, because this stuff is going around and you need to be testing before you be ingesting. There's a video where an African American woman is yelling out, "He needs some milk." There's a guy sitting on the ground who's fighting a tire on a vehicle. He's just completely out of it. And everyone's going, "Oh no, take it easy, dog," you know. And at one point she's saying, he needs some milk. I don't know why that's so funny to me. Lord, forgive me. Okay, now we're going to talk about, like we have Kensington. There's an area in South America, in Sao Paulo, they call it Cracklandia, and it's crackland. And it basically, when the sun goes, it's just crammed full of people. And then when the sun goes down, you can see all the lighters going off, and it looks like an encore at a Def Leppard concert. But they're all smoking their crack pipes. It's really one of the saddest things you'll ever see. So bazuco is the term for cocaine paste in Colombia, the world's biggest cocaine producer. And bazuco is derived from the Spanish word for trash, basura, literally meaning dirty trash of cocaine, referring to the paste that's left at the bottom of the barrel after cocaine production. So this chemical, what's left behind, is full of like acetate and acids and maybe kerosene, gasoline, and these guys will dry it out and smoke it because it'll ring your bell. So much of the cocaine that's abused in Bolivia involves the use of cocoa base or bazuco. It's a partially refined form of cocaine that contains residues of toxic chemicals such as gasoline or kerosene. It is highly addictive and very damaging to the user's health. Young people in urban areas often abuse cocaine and its cocaine byproducts in a cigarette form called a patillo. Cocaina, cocaine paste, PBC, pasta, bazuco, patillo, or paco, as it's commonly known in parts of South America, since its appearance more than 4 decades ago. The abuse of PVC leads to serious dependence, and it's been a growing problem in Peru and many South American countries. PVC is an intermediary product when the manufacture of cocaine where the coca leaves are mixed with industrial chemicals and solvents such as sulfuric acid and kerosene. Users typically smoke PVC. The drug generates severe physical and psychological dependence within weeks of its use, making it much more complex and difficult to treat than opiate use. PVC further induces psychosis and exposes users to a series of health risks, such as shortness of breath, heart attack, brain damage, infections, as well as antisocial or even criminal behavior. In parts of South America, PVC has created serious challenges for public health systems. It's really, really sad and really bad news. And when you look into that, like I had never heard of it, I've seen some documentaries on this phenomenon and the cost that it's had on these societies. And the most important takeaway is that these people don't run to drugs and then end up where they're at. They typically, life, has kicked them down. They're abused, they had horrible childhoods, they're living in poverty, and they end up on the street, so they end up using this stuff to cope. So it really makes you think and question the war on drugs. And when you look at other countries that have done the right thing, legalized everything across the board, taken care of their junkies, meaning give them what they need, give them a place to shoot up. Yes, it comes out of your tax dollars. Would you rather, you're going to pay either way. Would you rather pay by carjackings, murders, rapes, theft, muggings, or by paying Uncle Sam, which you're already doing? And I'm all for the decriminalization of this stuff, ending the war on drugs, because when you look at the countries that have done it, all the statistics plummet. Meaning the addiction rates go down, new users go down. You give the people what they need, give them help. Give them a few years to suck on the teat of society, and then maybe they'll come around and go on a methadone program and give them some proper treatment, educate them, and get them into some type of program where they can actually have a job. It's a complicated problem, but this is only getting worse. Now, this chicken or the egg concept, you can argue it till the end of time, but we've been living under the war on drugs for long enough to know that system is not working. What came first, the chicken or the egg? Well, smoking cocaine has been around since the early 70s. And when you see the bottom drop out on your reality and your quality of your lifestyle go into the toilet and you're homeless, what do you think people are going to do? People who live in the street are not on the street because they smoke crack, but they get acquainted with the crack once they're there. In fact, many people who consume smokable cocaine started their consumption in order to cope with the harsh living conditions. With little or no access to public health or other essential services and or other traumatic experiences. So this leads to serious questions about legality and the war on drugs. Now, lastly, I wanted to talk about Bombay. It's a devastating new drug. It's called Bombay because of its power, its powerful effect. And drug is created with exhaust filters. It's turning users into zombies and wreaking havoc on a city. Bombay is being sold across Kinshasa, the capital of the Democratic Republic of the Congo. Deprived from crush vehicles' exhaust filters. It causes users to stand motionless for hours on end or sleep for days on end. In August, police rounded up and paraded nearly 100 alleged dealers and Bombay users, which translates into powerful in the local Lingala language. Cedric, a 26-year-old gang leader, told the Reuters news agency, "We used to drink very strong whiskey when we were restless and we would hurt people." So they're stealing catalytic converters, taking them apart and grinding up the honeycomb mass that's inside the catalytic converter and mixing that with sleeping pills and other adulterants and snorting, smoking, and injecting this Bombay. And it turns them into junkies. It gives you the frozen in time effect, but through a different route. Now I have to imagine if I cracked open a catalytic converter and ground it into a powder, I'd be wearing gloves and a respirator. I certainly wouldn't want to willingly insufflate that. This again leads me to consider how sad it is to if you're living in the Congo, living in Kinshasa, and that some idiot in New Jersey, Illinois, or California is going to find out about this, grind up their catalytic converter and sell it as some new street drug. Well, it's another reason to test before you ingest. Just. Health risks kind of outweigh any potential benefit from insufflating a catalytic converter. Doesn't it seem that way? Lastly but not leastly, I don't know if you remember the Jenkem phenomenon. If you look into that, there was some articles like 10, 20 years preceding that about kids who were glue sniffers and gas huffers getting into Jenkem, that they were using sewage to get high on. So who knows? I'm not willing to be the test pilot on that one. So let me know if you've ever tried that and how that worked out for you. But if you've never heard of Jenkem, I really don't want to go there in this video. I was trying to be more infotainment, like I'm providing some information that you may not have heard before. And if I go down the Jenkem road, it's been proven to be a hoax. But then there's those previous stories. Because when Jenkem broke, I did a lot of work on that. Just reading everything I could find, and I would always find references to those original articles, and I've even found them. So that's that. Before I wrap this up, my lifestyle, I'm a little bit older and I'm trying to wean my bad habits as I get older and become a more respectable, honest, clean living person. But it's not so easy for everyone, and I have it pretty easy here. Who am I going to kid, right? So let me be thankful for what I have today and hope that we can sustain that. My hope for this video is that it would educate and people. I mean, we're not going to see any drastic changes in what's been happening and what's going on. It seems like it's only going to get worse. So we as the society, we as the consumers, we as the users, perhaps we can educate ourselves and be prepared. I mean, if you're some junkie that's living on the street, you're not going to be able to test your street drugs. You're not going to be able to afford to do that. So it's just ridiculous to even consider that. So really, ultimately, there's one solution, and that's do well with your life. Do well for yourself. Stay off of the streets and keep your nose clean. The game has changed. It's not the same as when I was a kid coming up in the late 70s and 80s, and what you had to worry about was maybe a little PCP or, a bad acid trip. But this stuff is really, really bad news. And people are dying from it. So, share this video if you know someone that you think could benefit with it. I thank you so much for joining me and giving me your time. I respect and appreciate that. Try to stay cool. Take care of yourselves. Take care of your pets. If you have a nice little pet there, give them an extra treat. Maybe give them a hug. Pet them out. Brush them out. I've got a kitty cat that likes to be brushed. And that's that type of thing for me gives me a pretty good feeling. Pretty worth my time, and I wouldn't trade that for all the legal highs in the world or a good fentanyl buzz. All right, you guys. Peace.